systems. If you're an auditor, you need to understand how the systems, what they do. How do you generate data from all of this accounting software? Can you rely on this data? How do you ensure that the data you generate for a bank, that across that, it captures all the transactions? And for the banks these days, you have millions of transactions generated in every hour, right? From ATM transactions to online, all of this, many transactions. So it's creating opportunities for people that understand the systems. At the same time, there are threats. A lot of people are concerned that with technology, it might mean that accountants are not really needed. So the things we used to do, how to use Excel and all of those, which used to be very relevant in the future. It's possible that, in the past rather, it's possible that in the future, you've got robots now. When you check online, robots are doing so many very mundane tasks. So anything that is repetitive, anything you can write a code for, or is a simple task, some even complex tasks, you can write programs and have machines deliver this with less likelihood of human error or things like that. And sometimes it's even cost effective. So organizations, you would have heard from Amazon to Google to Facebook, there's been a lot of layoffs in the last 1 year, and it will continue. So all of these organizations are beginning to look at their human resource policy. And so a lot of people are afraid that, for those of us in finance, we might not have jobs. But we know that that's not true. We know that, yes, some jobs will become eliminated, but it opens opportunities for new jobs. We talked about data. Data is very big in countries like Canada, the US, UK, even in Nigeria. A lot of opportunities are coming up in that, data analysts, data governance space. Those were not there 10, 15 years ago. So there's also climate change now. A lot of work around, just understanding how to capture carbon capture technologies around reducing emissions, also around climate finance. So CFA, ACC, all of those bodies are coming up with certification to prepare accountants, finance people with the skill they need to be able to play actively in that sustainability net zero future era. So these opportunities, again, were not there. So for those of us, and many of us on the call, I think the challenge with thinking about global opportunities is to first understand the trends. What are the drivers? What's changing? Would this entire industry even be there in another 10 years? So I'm sure a number of us are probably still studying, or you're in your first 5, 10 years of experience. So I think, it's reasonable for you to be concerned that will this industry be there 10, 15 years? If the finance industry will still be there, like I've alluded through my initial conversation, how do you position yourself to take advantage of those opportunities? Some opportunities will be there for you in Nigeria. So a number of you might not even be interested in jackpotting, or you just want to be closer to home because you have your parents there and all of that. There are opportunities. So one of the partners from PwC Nigeria was saying is that a lot of people are leaving. And so because a lot of people are leaving, it's creating opportunities even for people that want to do, either you want to work in Nigeria or you're looking for a job before. Some of the opportunities that you're looking for before that you didn't have access to are now there. And for many of us that still, feel like, I want to leave the country. I can, either for whatever reason, you want to get overseas experience, you want to make more money, you just want to live somewhere else outside of Nigeria. Now is the time, to start thinking about global opportunities. So in the past, if you wanted to go into the UK, it's always very difficult. Excuse me, let me just get water. If you don't mind, let me just get water. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, everyone. So in the past, if you wanted to go to places like the UK, it was challenging. Getting a visa, even being seen by agents that are looking for people. They were not looking at Nigerians. They were not considering Nigerians. This has changed significantly because now you find that a lot of Nigerians are being recruited directly from Lagos, Abuja, all of that. Agents are reaching out to people to say, do you want to move? Are you considering this? People are getting jobs. This is the first time. If you talk to senior colleagues, some of them on this call, they'll tell you that it was very difficult. I remember, 10, 15 years ago, it's difficult to, if you're not moving through either a big four firm, it would be difficult. But now you find that because of shortages in talent, there's talent challenges in places like Australia where I am. We don't have a lot of people. In the UK, there's less skilled people. And again, you ask me, why do they have less people? One, they're not giving back the same way we're giving back in Africa. And some of these countries have challenges with the birth rate. So they have a lot of senior people, they don't have young people, but their industries are growing, their economies are growing, they need people to do this work. So that's one of the reasons. The other reasons is, some of the laws, you heard of Brexit, some of the laws that they made in the past did not necessarily favor them from a people perspective. And COVID happened. When COVID happened, a lot of people also moved back to their countries. They wanted to be closer to loved ones. Of course, a few people died. Well, a lot of people died, depending on which country you're looking at. But more importantly, there was a lot of challenges. People looked at their lives. Some people stopped working. Some young people decided to go do other things. So there's been challenges globally with having the right, level of skill and the right competent staff. And so that's causing, companies to revisit their talent policy, their people acquisition, retention policy. So that there's never been a time like this. To be fair, there's never been a time, the other day, someone I know very well in Nigeria, who just joined Deloitte, just sent me a message that, is in Sydney. We should have a chat. And this is someone that, potentially might not even have thought about traveling in the past. So what am I saying? That there is a lot of opportunities now to attract or to position yourself for a career in Nigeria, first of all, don't forget that. But anywhere else in the world, Ghana, South Africa, US, Canada, anywhere, UAE, places like Dubai, Saudi, there's also a lot of opportunities for finance people there. So I think when you think about all of these things, the first thing is to be aware of, what's changing, what are the trends, what are the drivers, what are the opportunities. But more importantly, what are the threats? So there's still threats, even though there's all of these opportunities. There are threats that if you don't do anything, if you don't position yourself, if you don't think about your career long term, next 10 years, next 15 years, next 20 years, where do you want to be? Where do you see your career going? It could be a threat to you, right? Technology, we mentioned, is going to change things. So if you're not thinking, if you're not developing yourself to take advantage of opportunities, it could mean that you'll be losing your jobs. Or your job, God forbid, like some people will be losing. And there's nothing wrong with losing a job. If you're in demand, if you lose a job, then you can take up another job or, know that your skills are relevant in the market. The challenge is if you're losing a job and then there's no other person that thinks you have valuable skills, that's the challenge. So when you're thinking about the opportunities and the threats, more importantly, also think about what's driving this talent crunch that we see globally. And I've explained that to you from being, some of the policies countries are making, birth rates, and, maternal health and all of that globally. But more importantly, COVID, the post-COVID era has seen, high inflations. The macroeconomic conditions around the world mean shifts. Most places it's been slowing down, but, from last year to this year, there was hyperinflation, or increased inflation rather across many countries, which meant that, also there was increased wages and people could now make a choice as to where they want to work. I also mentioned that, there's a lot of opportunities now for Nigerians to go to places that in the past have been very difficult. So people are going to places like, Canada has always been open in the last few years. So Canada is a common place. But the US has even been, interestingly, people are getting opportunities to go to the US, Australia, Canada, Dubai, like I mentioned, it's always been a hot place. But, very importantly, Germany just recently, came up with their own equivalent of the green card, like a permanent residence. So all of these countries are creating opportunities, and we've seen Nigerians are also being innovative. Either going to school or staying back in places like the UK or across Europe. The other day, someone was telling me is in Poland. Someone from Africa in Poland, and places that in the past had language challenges are now very open because either they are speaking more of English or they are attracting native English speakers. So some of those barriers that we had before are being lifted. So I just want to encourage you. I want to leave time so we can have some questions and all of that. But I think for me to you is have a strategy. And how do you have a strategy? Talk to people There are senior people on this call, the organizers and founders of this group. They're proven professionals. If you have challenges or you're not sure about how to take a career, reach out to them, learn from their insight, let them help you. Just think about what steps you need to take for your career. When you think about your career, it has to be a long term. Yeah, it's good to get that additional 5 million or 2 million naira or whatever, 10 million, whatever you're looking for. That's good. But, when you're thinking about a career, you need to think long term. You need to think 5, 10, 20, 30 years, So think about someone like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, right? She's whatever, probably, I don't know, 50 something or 60 something, but she's still working, right? And she still has a career she's building. So you need to be able to, if you're 20 or 30 on this call, you need to be able to see your career beyond 30 years. So you can't just sometimes you need to take short-term goals, but the longer term, you can think it helps you make more informed choices. And, there are people, like I mentioned, the founders of this group, senior members on this call that can help you do that. So reach out, if you're not sure, you're just starting out, reach out to them. This group, belonging to a group like this, where you can hear people come in, talk, and share their own story, is also an opportunity for you to challenge yourself, meet with like-minded people, and begin to set goals that would help frame your future. So that's the number one thing. The second thing you should do is never stop learning. I think, if you're on this call, for me, what I really tell myself every day is I can't even stop learning, right? People think I've achieved so much, but I also know how much I have left. The beauty of knowledge is that you see how much you don't know. The more you know, the more you discover that you really don't know much. And that's a challenge. It's a lifelong learning. So think about Warren Buffett. I was telling my friends recently, Warren Buffett is 93 years old. His close friend, Charles Munger, is 99. And these are guys that are still running companies. They're not just sitting down. The traditional billionaire in Nigeria, that they are just sitting down, money is coming in. These guys are working very hard. Like, someone like Warren Buffett has a busy day than I have. He's reading books. It's because they are still actively involved in Berkshire, the company. And they're actively involved in investment strategies and all of this. 99. Right? So I don't know who the oldest is on this call. Probably 40, 50, I don't know. Max 60. It means even if you're a 60-year-old on this call and somebody's 99, it means you can still set goals at 60. So if you're on this call and you're 60, and I'm telling you that there's a guy called Ches Bungen who is 99 and is vice chair, it means you can set a 40-year goal. So advances in healthcare, that's another driver. So healthcare has changed. Things that used to kill people before, it's not killing people again. Remember when most of you were growing up, people were dying of AIDS. Do you hear that? It's not common again. Why? Because there's antiretroviral drugs. The current Pope, when he was young, he had tuberculosis. They had to remove one of his lungs. He's only living on one lung. The other, he doesn't have one. Why? Because in the past, in the 70s or whatever, 40s rather. If you had tuberculosis, sometimes they need to remove a whole lung. Nobody does that again. They just give you antibiotics and it's gone. So a lot of things are changing. Advancing in healthcare means that your generation will most likely live beyond 100 years old. What are you going to be doing? Some of you want to retire by 40. That's fine. You want to retire by 50. So what do you want to do? You want to retire by 60. How many people would have the wealth, be a billionaire to retire at that age? Across Europe, they are reviewing retirement age. They're elongating that work life. So from like 60, they're moving it. Why? Because people are going to live older rather than just retiring early and they stay on state. They need to do something. So you need to start thinking about your career, not I'm retiring 50. Even in Nigeria, the professors, when I was in uni, used to be, I can't remember whether 60 or 70, they moved it because there's no people, they don't have the people. There's no adequate, pool of talent to get professors. Some of you know that in your schools, you had professors in, say, like Uniben coming to like Ibn Edo University to teach. You had professors from like UI coming to Bowen, all of the same professors. So you need to think about your career long term. I'm thinking about my career long term. I'm not just sitting down. Research has also shown that in our lifetime, people would have, it won't be strange to have people with 3 or 4 careers. Our parents, some of them, they work with the police, they work with all this place, police force, Nigerian Railway Corporation. Some of them were teachers and principals or professors. They just had one career, 40 years doing the same thing. Lagos State, Ogun State, Edo State, Bauchi, whatever, government. And they work for 40 years, permanent sec, all of that stuff, right? Director, and they retired, and all of that. Your generation, some of you will start as a teacher, you move on to become, a banker, you leave banking, you go and do, I don't know. You probably have 3 or 4. Research has shown you have 3 or 4 careers in your lifetime. So you need to be ready. You need to be ready for that challenge. You can't just sit down and say opportunities are not coming. How much are you developing yourself? You need to be hungry for success. I was talking to a mentee and she was like, oh, she wants to, she should do, she's like, she should do a CCA or she should go back to school to do a PhD. Should she do this? I say, you know what? I don't care what you do, just do something. I say, but I need to know which one. I say, you know what? It doesn't matter. When I started in PwC in Nigeria, we had a managing partner then called Kenny Bukwe. And the guy said, you know what? I don't care what you read. Even if you're studying Yoruba, just read something. The problem with our generation, even myself, we don't have time to read. So I've got all those phones here and I'm on Instagram most times of the day, just wasting my life away, Mr. Macaroni, looking at skits and all of that stuff. And there's nothing wrong with it, but that's valuable time, In the past, there wasn't macaroni, there wasn't fast stuff. And people were reading. People were really reading about something. Now, you're struggling. I don't have time to read. Because we all spend time on on Facebook or, WhatsApp, on groups, people are sending you stuff. So, and there's nothing wrong with all of that, but you need to challenge yourself to develop. Pick something. How much your life will be better there in Nigeria. There's language. Language is big. You can go learn French for little to nothing. I learned Francais. Nikeja is in VI, is everywhere. Gothe, these are places I went to in Nigeria. Gothe is in Marina. You learn German. I learned German. And your life will be better if you can speak German. Even if you can just speak, just a few things. Ich spreche, ich spreche this, ich spreche Deutsch ein bisschen, Vous parlez français, comment ça va, whatever, because these are languages people use in business. And you don't know where your opportunities will come from. So rather than sit down, I can't get a job, what are you doing? What are you doing? In Nigeria, we are surrounded by Francophone countries. In all of those countries, Senegal, Benin, all those places, Cote d'Ivoire, they speak French, right? Go learn French. If you don't know what to do with your life, go and learn French. I've just told you what to do. Some of you are sitting down waiting for, no, just do something. Whatever it is, anything. Learn psychology. Why not? You know, if you're interested, go and learn it. Sit down, read a book. If you need to go to school, you know, there's schools there, LASU, Unilag, you know, you pay little to nothing and you go do another master's or something. If you have the money, go do. If you don't have the money, you have a phone. Some of these courses are free on Coursera, all of these places. You need to challenge yourself. It's not easy, but you have to challenge yourself to grow. You know, I think that's, you know, the crux of the matter. You need to challenge yourself to grow. The opportunities will be there, but a lot of people will also be scoped out of the opportunity because the skills they have are not relevant. So, you know, I've said a lot, you know, 30 minutes. I can continue going on for 2-3 hours, but that won't do much value for you. If there are specific questions you want me to attend to, I'll just pick that. But I think, you know, just to summarize again, finance is changing. I told you some of the drivers. The drivers are, you know, globalization, technology, creating opportunities, and threats. You want to make sure you are on the opportunity side. You know, you are not being phased out by technology, by chats, GPT, whatever, all of that, artificial intelligence. You know, you don't want to be phased out of that. What can you do to take advantage of global opportunities? You can, you know, reach out to people, understand, set a strategy for your career. I told you to try and do long term, you know, medium to long term, at least 5 years, you know, but more importantly, 10 years. What do you want to do? Everybody overestimates what they can do in a year, but underestimate what you can do in 10 years. So, you know, many of us on this call, you went to church, or if you're Muslim, at the beginning of the year, whatever you believe in, you set huge goals. I want to have 6-pack. You know, I want to build my first house. I want to buy my first car. I want to have whatever your goals were. And that's fine. But a year is just 12 months and it runs very fast. You know that already. We're going to May. I'm in May already. You guys will be in May in a few hours. And that's how December will come. And, you know, most people never achieve anything. It's not because they can't do it, but you pack a lot in a year. It's just a year. You know, if they leave it to some of us, you finish university in 1 year. But you can't finish university. It's 4 years. Whether you are good or not, 4 years. You do year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. And then you now finish. You can't say, my goal is to finish your work. You say, New Year resolution. I want to finish my university this year. No. It takes time. Life takes time. You know, forget whatever you're seeing on the internet. People making money in 1 year. Forget it. It's going to take you time. Face that already. And that helps you plan. Oh, rather than say, I want to make my first million in 1 year. Is it more realistic to say, I want to make my first million in 5 years? Then how do you do it? Then you give yourself, then you don't overstress yourself. Then you still get to the objective. So long-term goals, you know, it's very important. Sit down with mentors. You know, this group is important. I'm glad you made time. I know it's a busy, you know, it's weekend, all of that. You made time to be on this call. Continue to attend. Reach out to more senior people on the call. Let them help you with things you're not clear about. You know, that's important. I also told you there are opportunities for you first in Nigeria. Don't forget, there's opportunities in Nigeria. And of course, a lot of people will still want to go out, and that's fine. You know, that's fine to go outside of the country. Again, you don't need to start from zero. There are people on the call that have connections all over the world. Reach out to them. Wherever you're thinking of going, they can advise you. You know, it's always good. One of the things you need to worry about as, you know, Nigerians, as Black people, is we always want to do things on our own. You know, we have all these ideas we came from, you know, from university where, you know, you cover your book, or high school. You don't want people to see what you're doing. You need to collaborate. Nobody cares about how you get there. You know, sometimes you just need to collaborate. You know, ask questions. Oh, I'll do it myself. Oh, I know, I'm more intelligent. No, it doesn't help. Ask questions. Sometimes you don't need to stress. Just ask questions, right? So be inquisitive. It's a long journey. Your career is going to span, like I told you, not just 30 years, probably 40, 50 years. If you are 30 on this course, some of you work till 75. It's not a cost. You know, it's not a cost if you are working 75. It doesn't mean you'll be doing the kind of work you're doing now, but you still be adding value. I gave you examples of people in their 90s that are billionaires, but are still enjoying work. They're still, one of the richest men in the world, but doing great work and finding fulfillment from it. Okay. So thank you. Thank you for listening to me. If there are questions, I'll take them and I'll try and answer as much as I can.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Joseph. Thank you very much. I wrote a lot of things here, but one of the things you said that really stood out for me was when you said life takes time. You don't like pack a lot within a year. Life actually takes time. So, like, I actually have a question. Like there's this thing they talk about consistency, like keep building, keep building. But like it gets to a point where like you are building on the wrong thing. So at what point does consistency, like, should you stop being consistent? Like, what are the signs you would know? What are the symptoms you would see that okay, this thing I'm putting my energy into is not worth it? Yes, that's my question.
Yeah, thanks, Odara. Let's face it. There's nothing wrong. You can't be building on the wrong thing. I think it's a mindset. In Nigeria, if so, I'll take you back in the 70s, right? Or 60s or whatever, 50s, 40s, when nobody went to school. The few people that went to College of Education and there were teachers were well paid. Everybody was, interested in teaching. Then later I was like medicine, doctor, because we don't have a lot of that. People moved into that. Later I was banking at some point. Everybody went into banking. Later I was IT. Everybody went into IT. I don't know what it is now, whether it's Yahoo Yahoo or whatever, but that's just side. That's just a jest. But the idea is you can't be following. Yeah, trends are good, or things that are raining, or crypto, all those things. They're good, but you need to first sit down. What do I like to do? And there are books on purpose and all of that. I won't spend too much time on that. But a good sign of what you are meant to do is what you like to do. So some of you on this call, you like working with kids. Some of you teach in your Sunday school. Some of you teach in the mosque or whatever. Some of you, yeah, you work in the community. It's a sign of what you are created to do. So, and I was telling someone on a call, a friend of mine that from medical school called me from the US today. And I was just asking me a question on how did I get to where I am? The reality is where you're going, you don't necessarily know where you're going, but you know what you like to do. I love to teach. And so I was teaching out. ACC, I was just teaching people because I wrote the exam and I noticed people were struggling to pass. And I've always loved to teach. When I was in primary school, I was teaching. I finished secondary school. I went to private school to teach for a year before going to university. When I was in university, I had a tutorial club. I was teaching people for free out of the 300 people. So it was just natural to say, okay, I'll teach. And I was teaching and the opportunities came, blah, blah, blah. 10 years in the journey. I'm now global president. So if you sit down there and say, oh, the guy is lucky, well, good luck to you. Go create your own luck. There's nothing like luck. So, so I just want to abuse the idea of doing something wrong. No. So far as you're passionate about it, it's not wrong. Passion. So I love teaching. I'll just, whether you pay me or not, I'll teach. I told you, most of my students are like consultant now, neurologists, neurosurgeon, all over the world. But I was teaching them for free in medical school. 300 people. I'll teach them for free. When they write tests, I'll go to their rooms to follow up. Those that failed, I'll counsel them. I'll encourage them for free. Who does that? How does that make sense? But that's what I love to do. Years down the line, I know many people. I've got a huge network. I'm still passionate about that. And it's created opportunities for me. What am I trying to say, Amadara? Find what you love to do. Sometimes some things come to you. You might not necessarily even love to do it, but the opportunities just come. People are asking you, can you do this for us? And it's something you can do. It doesn't take much from you. So life brings whatever you call it, God, faith, life, anything you call it, brings opportunities your way. The problem is that most of us, when you do something for 1 year, for 2 years, and you don't see results, we give up. That's the first problem. The second problem is that we judge our success by what we think our neighbor is doing. Some of you don't feel, because if it doesn't bring money, and that's a cultural thing, and I'm not going to go into that today, that has to do with morals, that has to do with self-esteem, that has to do with how we see ourselves, So I have a problem that not just in Nigeria, we run to see Nigeria in many countries, especially low income countries. Everybody just wants to escape poverty. We're not thinking of value. So, some of you are, you went to school to study chemistry or physics. I did the same thing. Because there are no opportunities there, you don't think that's where you should be. Whereas I just talked to you about global, opportunities in global finance, right? There are places in the US where they're looking for that skill. There are places in Germany, in the UK. So the message today is rather than say, oh, I'm doing the wrong thing, you could be in the wrong market. You could be doing the right thing. It might just be that where you are is not the right place. So what about just changing location? How about going? A lot of Nigerian doctors went to South Africa. I have friends that have been in South Africa for over 20, 30 years and they're doing fine. What? They just changed location. There's nothing wrong with what they're doing, which is medicine. But because they didn't get the kind of success they wanted here, they went to other places. So I think I want to, disabuse that principle of saying, oh, doing the wrong thing. No, unless you're not passionate about it. Unless, your daddy said you should go study law and you're now a lawyer. And there are many people like that. And you say, you know what, I don't want to do it. That's fine. Go do what you want to do. When I was in med school, most of my friends, and some of them are doctors today, their parents wanted them to be doctors. They didn't want. My roommates, he didn't even like to see blood. And he was studying to be a doctor. But his father had a clinic and he had to go to med school. He's a doctor today, but he's not doing anything. He's doing health and safety in an oil and gas company in Nigeria. So if you're in that situation, people pushed you or you were not sure, everybody was going to study whatever, engineering, and you went to study engineering. That's fine. You can change. But if you're doing something you love to do, anything, and you love it and you're passionate about it, then you need to not worry about, oh, should I move to someone else's? It's about how do you do that thing well such that you become the person everybody's looking for. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'll leave it there.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Joseph. That made a lot of sense. Thank you very much. Please, does any other person have a question? If you have a question, just raise up your hand. If you have a question, or use it. Okay. There is. Okay, you can go on with your question, Mr. Idris.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for the insight thus far. Okay, so my question centers around what's obtainable in the global space. Okay, so let's say for individuals that are in Nigeria, what is it usually like when they transcend or when they migrate to other countries? There's usually this notion that when you go to another country, you tend to be some kind of second class citizen and some stuff like that. And what are those things they need to imbibe so that even though in most instances they are valuable resource persons in Nigeria, what are those things they need to inculcate so when they move to another man's land, they are still as valuable or even more than they were when they were in Nigeria?
Yeah, thanks, Idris. Very, very interesting question. I think the challenge is again, when you go to a country. So I'm in Australia, but I've worked in different other countries, and I've had the opportunity to travel to many places, in many countries. I think the challenge is when you go somewhere, because most people that travel have been in Nigeria for their what we call formative years, right? So you went to secondary school, primary, secondary. Some of them have even started working. They are big boys or whatever, big people in Nigeria. When you travel, it's different. Some of you have traveled to visit. Visit tourism is different. Some of you have never even traveled before, which is fine. But when you go to a different country, Apart from, things like racism and all of that, it's just different. The language is different sometimes. Even when you speak the same language, the way they speak it is different. The accent is different. Um, Also, sometimes some countries are not used to seeing either black people or they can't even understand what you are saying. Then there's cultural shock. You discover that in some places in Nigeria, homosexuality is a crime. In other countries, it's celebrated. And so, if you're a religious person, that might be a cultural shock because you go to your office, you see two male people kissing themselves or holding hands, or two female, you know, you know, being intimate in one form or the other, or just showing public display of affection. It could give you cultural shock. So I think again that's where your research comes in. If you're gonna travel to somewhere else, yeah, it's a good opportunity. Most time to focus on the money. How much are they paying there? How much is it? That's you change it to naira. That's 70 million. That's whatever million. And that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. But you need to do more. You need to understand what's going to change. You know, if you have kids, what's the impact it will have on your kids? Will your kids be able to settle in? What do you need to do to help your kids settle? If you're a wife and you have a partner, your husband, how do is your husband going to be able to get a job if you're taking care of your husband, you have a wife? If you are getting a job, will your wife be able to get a job? If you have a relationship, when you're away, how do you manage your relationship? Those are questions that you need to think about. Sometimes people don't think about those things. And so there's going to be challenges when you move countries. The opportunities are there, but it's challenging. If you have parents, some of them are older ones, you might not be able to see them, or they might not be happy that you're leaving and they can't see you as frequent. So sometimes I feel that understanding the challenges, again, building a support system, talking to people, that's where collaboration comes in. People have gone ahead of you. Some of these countries, there are people there already. And like I said, some of the founders of this group, if you reach out to them, this is what I'm trying to do. I want to go to Poland. Even if you don't know anybody there, it's possible that people on this call can help you identify someone in Poland. And that alone, at least it can tell you, prepare for this, do this, do this. Of course, there's nothing like experiencing something yourself, but you know what the pitfalls are, or the potholes, whatever it is, the challenges, and you can prepare yourself better for it. So racism is always there. There are many. I won't attempt to go into what's racism and all of that. There are many reasons why there's racism. The world, everybody has different perspective. There's been, slave trade, all of that, and there's racial prejudice everywhere in the U.S. Most countries of the world, even Nigeria. We don't treat ourselves equally. Somebody is Yoruba and you are Igbo. Yoruba man will say Igbo man is this. The Igbo man will say Yorubas are this. The Hausa will say all of you are this. The Bibio man will say this. So even in Nigeria, my understanding, we've got over 300 or so ethnic groups. It's not easy, doing all of these things, seeing ourselves as one. You see what's happening with the elections and, how divided we are as a people, as a country. You saw what happened, with the obedience and the ratified or Article 5. So people are divided like that all over the world. In the US, it's Republicans, Democrats, and it trickles down. So be prepared for these things. Know what you need to do to protect yourself. Know how to respond. All of this comes from being prepared, research, talking to people, and all of that. So it's a journey, but I don't think it should defer you from, if your ambition is to go abroad, that don't allow those challenges, hold you back.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So someone else was raising his hand, Mr. Odubemi Shegun. Mr. Odubemi Shegun, you have a question.
Okay, thank you so much, Omar, and thank you, sir, for this wonderful class. In fact, I was so excited to have this question with you, and I was so excited to also to get this. this start. Just think you want now only one and we have a lot of people traveling out from people they have worked in Nigeria maybe for one audit firm and the other having skills, practical experience and all that and also their chartered account. So I want to see because travel out now for instance now you are from well, I just want to see if there's any difference between this ICAM, this chartered accountant Nigeria and then ACCA how relevant the chartered accountant Nigeria can are having traveled out from Nigeria to any other country. I just want to confirm, or the a chartered accountant needs to maybe acquire more certificate like ACCA or other professional certificates in order to be relevant over there, or he can still maintain ICAM certificate to work over there. Thank you.
Yeah, your line was breaking there, Shagun, but I think I heard you a bit. I won't be able to comment on ICANN or ACCA as you appreciate. I'm ACCA president, and whatever I say can be misconstrued. But what I'll tell you though is that whether it's ICANN or ACCA, the key thing, if you go back to what I said, just make sure you know you're improving yourself, right? So if you have ambition to study for ICANN, please do. Most of my friends are ICANN. I know the current ICANN president and most of the past presidents. I know ICANN. In fact, I was speaking at ICANN London's. I think they are whatever Independence Day. They did a webinar, and I was a guest speaker at ICANN London. I know ICANN US trying to get me, so I do stuff for ICANN associations as well as other accounting associations all over the world. I think the key thing is all of these associations are evolving. They are responding to the challenges of the times. I know ICANN members that are all over the world, like I said, UK, US. So the key thing for you, again, it goes back to counseling. So if you're part of this group, I hope, Shegun, you're part of this group. Reach out to very senior members on this group. Tell them what your ambition, what you want to do. So the first thing for you is to, like I said, there are opportunities for you in Nigeria. ICANN, started out in Nigeria, but it's not just in Nigeria. Like I told you, ICANN is all over the world in most countries. So sometimes, depending on what you want to do, someone can counsel you to say, okay, do this, do that. But whatever you're doing, if you're doing ICANN, fine. If you're ANA, whatever, ACCA, if you're whatever you're doing, the key thing for me, to you, my message to you, is that make sure you are, developing yourself, making sure you're acquiring the right skills. And being a chartered accountant or a professional accountant, whatever, is one of those steps that you can make on the way. So if you have specific ask, please reach out to your senior members on this group. Like I said, I won't be able to make comments that are very specific, but my general comment to you would be, whatever you choose to do, whether it's ICANN, whatever, just make sure you're doing it. There are opportunities globally for you as a professional accountant. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Adebisi Adedayo, please, you can ask your question.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much.
Good evening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Okoyemi Joseph, CCA President. So I would like to ask you just a question, and the question goes thus. So, sir, what is that one thing you wish you had started earlier in your career journey that you didn't start early, but you wish you had started earlier?
Hey, for me, I think it's just, I never, Nigeria, I was in science class. So I didn't do like literature, all of those stuff. So I wish I had actually studied literature in school, literature, English, whatever, literature and English, whatever they call it in high school, secondary school. So till tomorrow, I feel like if I had done literature, it would help me with, just being able to read. So every now and then, literature is always something I like, I wish I done that. Language is also very important. So when you travel a lot, you discover that language can be a very key asset. So, for many of you that are on the call, if you can pick up a second language, it always helps. So it's doing something, not because you think you need it. I think that's the key, critical thing. So I've given you one or two things. Sports also. I never really played sports, but now I'm passionate about basketball. I follow. I try to play a little of golf, but I never made any headway. But it's not really the academic things. It's a social thing for me. I think literature is very important for those of you that study literature. Congratulations to you. But whether you study literature or not, just forming an habit of reading books, all of that. So I hope I answered your question, Adedayo. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Toyosi Abayomi, you can unmute your mic and ask your question.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Good
Good evening,
evening.
Mr. Okbayemi. Thank you for the section. It's been so wonderful. My question goes thus. I would like to ask, being a ACCA president, it's not just like a day job. There is momentum of success, accumulation of trials, or everything comes together. I would like to ask, your what's the secret behind your success? How did you achieve this feat to this moment? That's the question, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Toyosi. Like I mentioned, it's a journey. It's finding what I like to do. I talked about that earlier. It's you know, asking questions along the way. It's believing in what I'm doing, trusting that it will all make sense. So it's years of more than 10 years of just doing what I love. Then the opportunities come along the way. But I've like I keep telling people, you can't do everything on your own. I've always enjoyed just having people reach out to people, try to ask questions along the journey when I want to make a key decision. I spend time thinking about it, career decisions. I don't just do things. I, speak to people that might have a different view about what I'm trying to do. I listen to what they say. And sometimes, I've made choices that other people, might not have found very, I've got jobs that I turned down because I think that, or I thought at that point they wouldn't help me in where I was going, So I think the key thing to us is that, what I've seen from my own experience and what I've read, when you read stories of people like Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, and all of these people, where you're going is not somewhere you can really plot from where you are. So I didn't know I was going to be ACC president. In fact, no black person had been ACC president. So there was no way I would have known that I'll be ACC president. But I knew I loved to teach, So I was just doing that. Then along the way, I discovered that, I was good with leadership. Every time I was class rep all through university, not because I stood for election. People just said, "Oh, this guy knows more people than everybody." So they made me class rep. I was president of my association. Again, unopposed, really, because the way I interact with people and the way I reach out to people. So, there are a lot of skills that got me here, and there's a lot of skills that you need that will take you to wherever you want to go. But the key thing is starting where you are, doing the small things. What do you love to do? How can you make an impact? Doing those things well, looking for opportunities in that area that you are currently. If you love to sing, what can you do differently? Look at Falz, right? Many of you know how Falz became. It was not because his father was popular. He started doing all this, content way back, and we're doing all the language like Funke Akindele used to do. And before you knew it, it went viral. From that, he went into acting, started singing, all of that. So it's about looking for what you enjoy or what you do well. Then just keep going. The opportunities will come in that area. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Please, sir, I would like to ask one more thing, sir. We talk about not looking about how will I say resources, money, rather than you putting in impact, values added. so that you can influence people. In that regards, how can you what advice can you give to a young accountant? Not, in these Nigerian settings, everybody is actually looking for money here and there in every means, other than the impact you should create. How can you advise a young professionals in that regard? And the second thing is that when you try as much as possible um, to create values, but you are not seeing the results, you try as much as possible to bring yourself up to some certain level, but you are not seeing the results, like consistent failures repeatedly. What advice can you give for for such a young lad? Thank you very much. Those are the two questions, sir.
Yeah. Again, these things are subjective. I can't really tell you, how you position yourself or whether you should go for money or not. You must just stay true to what, for me, um, I believe people should live life based on, trying to make an impact, right? Because, money is good and you should make money because you need money to support yourself, support your family. You can't do much without money. That's the reality, right? But money in itself is not, will not give you all the fulfillment you need. And it's a difficult one because people have different views about money. So, like I said, I won't go into that. I think the key thing, though, is that, um, when you're thinking about, making a life of impact and all of that, it's about first focusing on those things that, and you can also do things you love that will give you money. So, if you're a finance person, what should you be doing? So, yeah, definitely get a job that helps you look after yourself. You can look after your loved ones, but there's no money that you make that you not spend. So it's also developing healthy habits about saving, not spending more than you earn. In Nigeria, sometimes everybody has 3, 4 cars when you might not need up to 3, 4 cars, but because that's what everybody is doing, you know. Um, sometimes people move from mainland to island because everybody's staying on the island. Whereas there are places in mainland you can stay and still be okay and you save money, so it's just small things, right? And this is not, I don't think this is a place where we can discuss all of that, but I think sometimes we need to think about the things we do, as a people. Sometimes everybody is doing party, you have to buy a Ashwebi, and all of those things. And there's nothing wrong with it. But if you cannot afford it, why do you have to do it? I think the whole thing of, oh, if I don't do it, people will be ashamed of me. I think it's to first deal with those things. Be comfortable in who you are and don't follow the group think. And I'm not just saying that, I lived in Nigeria till well over my mid-30s. So, it's not because I'm not in Nigeria. There are things you cannot force me to do, right? Because I don't believe in it. I think it's about being self-aware. Sometimes people run themselves into debt in Nigeria because, oh, if I don't do it, what would they say? What will family say? And that's why it's not because you don't have people are making money sometimes. And when you're not making money, it's about what do you need to do? What skill do you need to do to help you get a good job? It's important. And we've talked about that earlier. In terms of when you are doing something, and you're not getting the result. Again, what kind of results are you looking out for? I've talked earlier about long term. Whatever you're doing will take time. If you start a school now, you want to teach people, you want to a secondary school, it will take time. Might not make money for 5 years unless you're not doing proper accounting. I think you are making money, cash flows, but have you broken? Did you break even? Etisalat, when they came to Nigeria, their first strategy was to gain subscribers, not even to make money, and they were running losses for several years. So it's your perspective. When you look at the way you look at this, what kind of result? When you say result, what do you mean? You're not getting result. What do you mean? And if it's not something you love, change it. If it's not giving you the kind of result you want, change it. But you must be conscious that results are not only financial, they are also non-financial. Are you making an impact? Are you growing? Is there a future for it? And that's where counsel comes in. Whatever you're doing, look for some people you believe in within this group. There are senior people there that you can bounce those ideas by and tell them the challenges you're having and they can guide you, right? So there's need for mentoring and all of that. Yep. Can we have
Yeah, thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, can we prioritize
Appreciate
people
it.
that have not asked questions before so that I'm conscious of time. So if you've asked questions before, if you can just wait a bit for people that have not asked so that they can get an opportunity to ask.
Okay, sir. So I think Adeleye Ebenezer, you've not asked the question before. Can you like unmute your mic and ask your question? Adeleye Ebenezer.
Okay, good evening, Joseph. Thank you everyone for this opportunity. Thank you so much for the lecture. It's been very impactful. Thank you. So, basically, my question is, I want to basically know your view about, as a young professional, what's your view or what's your counsel to me on how to properly, because there's this worry of how um, um, there has been rapid change, like serious, consistent, big change in the professional space where things are rapidly changing. The way work is being done is rapidly changing. So how do you what would be advice to me on how to properly position myself um, for this especially, and then what are the skill sets you think, what are the things you think, what are the skills you think I can acquire, especially to properly position myself. For instance, personally, I'm taking additional. I'm an auditor presently, and I do audit and I do tax. So I'm looking at taking courses on data science and data analytics because I feel like the industries I work um, uh, they have large inflow of data that the time knowledge of data analytics to be able to like make sense out of the large amount of data that we have really have. What I'm trying to say is that the market space is becoming really complex and things are really changing rapidly. What would be your advice for me to be able to position myself properly as a young professional? Thank you.
So thanks, Adele. I've answered some of those questions before. I don't know if you joined in good time, but I'll go over it again in terms of what you need to do. I think you're on the right track. You're an auditor, you're thinking about um things and data, and I touched on data also. So anything you get your hands to do, just do it. Whatever you can do, read articles on data. If you want to attend, do an online course, edX, one of the universities, Coursera, whatever. There's so many things you can do on data because number one, it opens your own mind, and when you start talking in your industry, in your audit firm, they will know that you understand data, you understand data governance, you understand data security, you understand privacy issues. So so that's why I just say, what? Sometimes we worry about, oh, what should I do? Just do something, right? You don't need to overthink it. You already know what you need to do. Just go do it. And when you do it, start positioning yourself as that person. Start looking for opportunities there. Then the question is, are there places that your new skill, would open doors for you? Do you need to move? When you start getting those skills, the next thing is, are there opportunities elsewhere for me? Or are there opportunities where I am? Do you need to talk to your bosses in the organization and, change units or whatever? So the key thing is get it going. Any advice for you, the same thing, the same thing I've said earlier on, just be inquisitive, keep learning, challenge yourself, don't be comfortable. Most people, the challenge is that most people get a form of success and they become comfortable. Many of my colleagues that we started 20 years ago, you get a job in the bank, you can meet your basic needs, and they just get comfortable. So, you have to make sure you're not comfortable. And when I say comfortable, it doesn't mean, of course, you should be comfortable, but don't just rest on your horse, right? Don't rest on your laurels. Think about how to get better, and you're doing that already. So I encourage you, you identify those courses, just go for them. You're an auditor, you need to be aware of, things around mega data. You need to be aware of security risk, privacy, all the rules around GDPR, not just GDPR. China has got its own equivalent. All of those privacy rules, all of these countries have their own. Vietnam, you need to be aware, you need to be conscious of that. Okay? I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Joseph. We'll be taking our last question for this session. Our last question. Ogunleye Dare, if you are still here, you can unmute your mic and ask your question. This is our last question for today. Mr. Ogunleye Dare.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you. So, as an undergraduate, I can see that most things that were taught in school are the manual type, like manual recording in accounting and those calculations in finance. But as the world is evolving, you can see that the professionals in the industry, what they do mostly now is making strategic decisions and interpreting those information that are produced by or generated through the use of technology. While the manual parts, which students are mostly taught in schools, are now handled through the use of technology. So my question is, how can students better position themselves to be relevant after graduating from school? That's my question, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Like you noted already, some of these curriculum in the schools might not be as relevant to what's happening currently. And that's where you need to, if you're still in school or if you finish school, quickly understand what are the gaps between your learning in the university or polytechnic or whatever school you went to and what's the reality outside. And that's where your personal development comes in. Is there a course you can do and you do can you do CIS, can you do CITN, can you do ACCA, whatever that would give you the relevant skills that an employer is looking for, right? So it's
Yeah.
about personal development. It's about asking questions, right? To say, oh, this is what I study. And that's why you're part of this group. So you can't be in this group and not be asking the right question. There are so many senior people on this call. There are people that have gone through what you're already or you are going through right now. They did that 2 years ago. Some of them did that 5 years ago. Some of them did that 20 years ago. And they are part of this group. So you need to reach out to them. You need to identify them. You need to tell them, this is what I'm trying to do. What do you think I should do? I just finished school. I don't think, how do I position? How do I get my CV done? What kind of places should I look for a job? Those are the questions you should ask, right? So I think, there's so many things that will get you there. There's not one thing that will get you to where you need to go. But that's where, the collaboration, that's where the coaching, and that's why you're part of this group. And there are also peers. I've talked about coaching, all of that, but there are people also, in your peers, went to the same school. Some of them are ahead because they know what's happening. You need to also talk to them. They need to talk to them that, oh, what do you think? What are you doing? Where are you looking at? What are the kind of things you're doing after school? Right? So it's a life journey of learning. And I want to encourage you, Daria, and everybody on the call that, you just have to keep learning. And rather than, oh, should I do this? Just do it. This is the conversation I have every day. This is what I am doing. I'm not telling you what I'm not doing. Just do it. If you're thinking about something, oh, should I do this? Seriously, just go do it. Just go do that. How do I know if it's relevant or not? There's no problem. Just do it. If you read about people in the past, there are people that this is way, way past, in the 30s, 40s, even in the 18th century. Some people were economists, same person. Be an economist, will be a doctor, will be a lawyer. People were reading and they were learning because they were interested, they were inquisitive. So there's nothing stopping you as you're an accountant from being whatever you want to be. If you're interested in it, for whatever reason, some of you don't care, you just want to make money. That's also a motivation. There are people that studied accounting, they will go to another country, they'll go and become a nurse. It doesn't really matter what you think about it. If it's helping the person fulfill whatever desire they have, whether it's to make money to support their family or whether it's something they want to do, all of that does not matter. It's the process of learning and picking up new skills. So if I left you with anything today, it's that you should be hungry. You should be passionate about learning, not necessarily going to school to get a certificate, but learning in whatever form, asking questions like you are here today. You're learning, picking up a book to read, audiobook, going on a free course. Coursera, oh, I don't have money. Then go on Coursera. There are free courses. There's no excuse. You're using data. All of us are on Instagram. We are listening to the new song by Davido. Use that data to go and join Coursera, do a course on data management for free. There will be a course that is free.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you
Thank you
so much.
very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Opeyemi. Yes, so
Thank
I think we have okay, do you still have a question, Ogunleye Dare?
no, I've been answered.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Once again, thank you very much, Mr. Joseph, for honoring our invitation. I had a very pleasant time. I'm sure every other person too was really enjoyed this session. Thank you very much, sir. And yeah, you've told us a lot of things today. We are going to make sure we put it into action. We are going to take one step at a time. We are going to continue doing it. We are going to remain relevant. We are going to learn every day. Thank you very much, sir. Once again, please, you people, you can unmute and say thank you to our speaker. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you,
sir.
everyone.
We
I
look forward
appreciate.
to
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you so much,
Thank you
sir.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much,
Appreciate.
sir.
So much, sir.
Really appreciate it,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you,
thank you, sir.
Mr.
So
Joseph. Thank you so
Thank you very
much.
much,
Yeah,
sir.
thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for
Thank
making
you,
time
sir.
to attend. Yeah, I appreciate it.
yeah, so with that, we have come to the end of the April session of the Meet and Chat with the Professionals. You can check the chat box. I already dropped the link to Mr. Joseph's LinkedIn profile. And if you are not a member of the Finance Business Partners and you want to join, the link to our LinkedIn page as well as our WhatsApp community is also there. You can do well to join. And yes, we'll see you next month for the next month edition of the Meet and Chat with the Professionals. Thank you, everyone. Take care of yourself and have a wonderful week. Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye bye.